without question. That organization has been the model.
And with the Patriots getting the weekend off, the wild card round kicks off tomorrow with the Chiefs and the Titans. And then it's the Rams and the Falcons from L.A. Friday night, the NBA features the Knicks in Miami to take on the Heat. And a nice matchup in Milwaukee. The Greek Freak and the Bucks will host the second-seeded Toronto Raptors. And on the ice, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They'll try to bounce back tonight in Chicago against the Hawks. NBC Sports Radio.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what you heard there, Dan Patrick, because today we have a big show on Tri-City Sports Now. First up, you would have heard the talk of a rival talk show host, I don't know which, selling the Buick on the air because one of his compadres ate a photograph in front of him. That caught... I have acid reflux, and I don't have that kind of reaction to somebody. I don't know. This is why we need, and it's extraordinarily important, to have the Dukes of Hazzard not only on TV, every channel that it can be on, but to be rerun and shown to as many of the 7 billion people that populate the world as possible. Because if that's causing you to be queasy, someone eating a photograph, this isn't gore. This isn't healthy, but what some other people put into their body. This is actually junk food. And you're quite literally, and if you're eating it, well, then I guess what you have to see. I saw Boss Hogg on the Dukes of Hazzard, the episode Gold Fever, second season. I think it was the 15th episode. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I can relate this off. If I'm off one or two, forgive me. In Gold Fever, Boss Hogg eats a piece of paper. Contract, actually. That's part of the plot of the episode. We laughed. We didn't have a problem with it. Heck, I saw Boss Hogg, played by the great Sorrel Book, late great Sorrel Book, eat raw liver. I'm actually told that he actually would put it in his mouth, wouldn't swallow it and all that. But that was, supposedly the favorite dish of Jefferson Davis Hogg was raw liver. How do I know this? Because I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. The name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now, and we own the Tri-Cities on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities because we have the hardest-hitting opinions, but above all, the best guests in the market. Like in the 1 o'clock hour, phoning in will be Cody Sensabaugh, Dobbins-Bennett product, now playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a bye in the playoffs this week, but Tri-City Sports Now goes to the playoffs this week with Cody Sensabaugh, local product here. Actually replacing the lineup at one point by Cam Sutton. We'll be talking about that. A lot of things with Cody Sensabaugh. And we will also be talking in this hour with Josh Benjamin. Josh Benjamin is a writer for Real Sport. Well, he used to write for Forbes, CBS, a lot of places like that. But he has written a lot of stories on paying college athletes. And folks, I believe that if the Tennessee Volunteers are ever to be great again, if they are ever to restore the mantle that they had in the college football world in the late 90s, this is what you got to do. Now, I'm not sure it's worth it for Vol's success. But if you're the second most profitable college football program in America and you're 4-8, then you got to be looking for ways to win. You got to be looking for ways to win. And this would seem to me to be a way to win. Lots of things are changing. I would have said, and I still am somewhat, I don't know if this is really going to happen, but look at all the changes that have gone on in college football really in recent times. in my lifetime, it used to be that a college football team could only be on TV 3 times a year, plus the bowl game. Now it's unlimited. Now you can watch every game. If you have a computer, most of them are televised, at least online. There's certainly no limit on how many times a glamour program, be it Notre Dame, is Tennessee still a glamour program? The faithful around here hope they are. But yeah, they've got a following. It seems, I'll tell you what, Tennessee does seem to get the primary game on CBS a lot. They really do have a large fan base. Here's a way to take advantage of what Tennessee has to offer. Because what does Tennessee have to offer? I keep going to this and I say, look at where the players are from, and they're not from Tennessee in SEC country. And there are 33 players, start of the year, including Cody Sensabaugh, from the state of Tennessee. He went to Clemson, by the way. One that got away, perhaps. I don't know. Cody Sensabaugh is one of 33 players that on opening day this NFL season was from Tennessee. Florida has 201 such players. How are you going to compete with the Gators that way? We have nosebleed seats, pageantry, this wonderful warm weather that we're having. Look what I'm considering wearing this here in the studio just to come out and... yeah. By the way, Virginia Tech fans, Ricky Walker, star defensive tackle, will come back his senior season. That just came up the board, so I thought I'd give you that quick note. But you heard on Dan Patrick, he's picking the Steelers. We're talking to Cody Sensabaugh in the next hour. He's picking the Steelers to go to the Super Bowl. Not a bad choice. Statistically, I think they should go. It's just the Patriots have had their number. And frankly, I also think Jacksonville is a worthy foe. So, without any further ado, Marky's monologue today. Normally I don't do this, but I'm going to give you my football picks for this weekend in the NFL. Matinee, by the way, is a great game of FCS opponents. Fans of ETSU and the ilk of that level of college football should really check it out. James Madison and North Dakota State, really the two best programs in FCS. One wonders if they will stay in FCS. But they will be playing in Frisco, Texas. I still think, though, the FCS... I like FCS football. But I will tell you that I do think it works out okay. Matinee to the wild card games. This game will kick off at 12, so I'll have my, maybe my pizza and be watching it, all this. But I've got to tell you, it just seems like, boy, that FCS, that was such a long time ago. And, now we're focused on so much other football, like, the playoffs of the NFL and, FBS football. Where does the FCS championship game really weigh in this? It really has been forgotten. I know the programs are smaller. You got to give that, the programs are smaller. But even so, I can remember watching in the 90s with some interest, and part of the reason why is, I have interest in ETSU. I had interest at the time. Jim Tressel was the coach at Youngstown State. I had interest there in Youngstown State. I had interest at Marshall and see Marshall play ETSU. Sometimes I can understand the ETSU fans around here, or maybe even the old Appalachian State fans that might check the game out. Western Carolina, we get into North Carolina, those guys. No Southern Conference. The Southern Conference, by the way, I know that Carl Torbush loves to tell you that, it's the best conference in college football. But a year ago, I had the SoCon commissioner on here say it wasn't. He said it was number 2. I had the guy that did the FCS poll on here a year ago. He said it was number 3. Now, I know year changes. I mean, the ACC, in my opinion, last year was the best conference in college football. Now, you got to either consider the SEC, because that's who's playing for the national title. And that's probably who I'd take, or the Big Ten, because of the head-to-head record that they had against Big 5 or Power 5 conferences, I guess is what they're calling them now. Big 5 is Philly basketball. Anyway, point is that, you start to wonder, have we forgotten it's now played so far down the line, the FCS championship game? Can you focus in on it? It's a good question. But I'll be checking it out, and we might talk about it a little bit later on. But first, the games that the whole nation will be watching officially, and that's the NFL playoffs. Let me tell you how I see them going. Remember, Cody Sensabaugh coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Josh Benjamin of a proponent, if you will, or should I say a proponent or a reporter who's covered the concept of paying college athletes. Is this the best way for the Vols to restore their greatness? I think it might be. Anyway, this week the NFL begins their playoff schedule. Here are the picks. First game, Titans. They're going to KC. 4:35 kickoff here in the Eastern Time Zone, Central Time Zone, 3:35. You know how that works. You know, I haven't talked about this, but for the Titans, this is a return to perhaps their greatest moment of glory in recent times. Ryan Suckup in the cold kicking the 53-yard field goal at the gun to beat the Chiefs last year really said, you know, something's changing here in Nashville. And this year the Titans make the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Don't think this isn't a winnable game for the Titans, okay? DeMarco Murray isn't available. He's out for the game. But you still have Derrick Henry. That's big. So the question isn't so much, do the Titans have talented running back? Many will tell you Henry is more talented than Murray. The question is, however, depth. Also strategy. Look, I got to tell you, people have been on Marcus Mariota this year, and why not? 13 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Not good. Not in this day and age. He scrambled for 60 yards against Jacksonville in Titans' victory there. And they were big plays. But if he does that against Kansas City, the Titans will lose. The way to beat the Chiefs, who have lost lost 6 of their last 11. They're 5-6 last 11 games. Attack through the air. Eric Berry isn't in the secondary. Admittedly, he's a safety, but he isn't in the secondary. It's not the same team. Their pass defense is vulnerable. While the Titans' offense down the stretch has been conservative, Henry can't do it alone. Look, Titans are getting 8.5 points. I'm not telling you to go out and do that. But I think the game rests on the shoulders of Marcus Mariota. This has got to be his coming out game. He's got to be able to attack the Chiefs' secondary. Running the ball in the gut isn't going to do it. I don't want you to get rid of LeBeau. I don't want to get rid of Townsend. I don't want to get rid of Malarkey. But if they continue to be conservative and don't attack the Chiefs' secondary, Titans aren't going to win. I think that they will. So the offensive coordinator will be safe. Titans 24-21. Atlanta and LA in a Coliseum. I'm thinking the Grits Blitz is going up against Pat Hayden, but then again, I tend to think in the historical too often. Falcons have won 6 of 8. Rams 4 of 7, including an embarrassing loss to San Francisco last week, where yes, they did rest the starters, but still. I know the 49ers are hot. I know they had won 4 in a row. I know they'd beaten Jacksonville the week before. It's just that at this point in the season, I like the fact that the Falcons have 2 running backs to pound away with Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman, whereas the Rams have Todd Gurley, who's had a fine year, rushed for more than 1,300 yards. But I just wonder, Game 17, is he going to get worn down? I know that, given the rest, the Rams rested their players here last week, but still, I just wonder. I like the Falcons' experience. I know that can be overrated. But they've won 6 of their last 8. They're 6-2. Rams, last 7 games, they're 4-3. Key to the Rams winning the game is turnovers. They're a +7 this year. Falcons are a -2. That's big. I know that Freeman, a little banged up, so is Julio Jones, but they'll play. These are the famous last words, but I don't know. I like the Falcons. Something is telling me there. I just Matty Ice, you know? I mean, I've heard our Colin Coward, who follows me, say he's a B+ quarterback. Fine. I like Jared Goff, don't get me wrong. Famous last words. Falcons 28-21. And you know what? You're getting a touchdown in that game too on the spread. You're getting a touchdown with the Falcons. Worst game of the day, Buffalo, Jacksonville. Jaguars lead the NFL in sacks. They have 4 players. That'll be Cal Campbell, Yannick, and this is a tough one to pronounce, but Ngaka. Yeah, Ngaka. Dante Fowler, Malik Jackson. What do they all have in common? 8 sacks at least among them. Jaguars led the NFL in sacks. They had 56. Steelers, by the way, were second with 55. We're going to talk to, let's promote that again. Cody Sensabaugh next hour. But on top of that, they've only allowed 170 yards through the air this year. That's the lowest total in the NFL. Jacksonville's a real sleeper, folks. I know they were 4-12 last year. They're a real sleeper. Question marks about Blake Bortles, perhaps? But if they get a lead, and I think they will, Bortles has played extraordinarily well with a lead. Question is if he can bring a team back from a deficit. I don't think that the Jaguars are going to be facing a deficit in this football game. Shady McCoy, game time decision. You got to figure he will play. I mean, game time decision, sure. That can be, drama, all that. But I'm not a doctor. I haven't looked at his body. I mean, come on. But still, you've got a banged up running back. You've got a quarterback in Tyrod Taylor who isn't any good. I'm sorry. He really isn't. And I've been saying this all the time. Let me give you an example. Jaguars lead the NFL in sacks. You know what quarterback was sacked the most in the NFL playoffs? Third most in football? Yeah, Tyrod Taylor. Jacoby Brissett and Sam Bradford, the only ones who were sacked more in the NFL this year. He was sacked 46 times. Now, everybody's picked on Nate Peterman because he threw the 5 picks against the Chargers in his first start. You want to look at these stats? I've looked at it. He was sacked once all year long, Peterman. Same line, same team. Taylor is sacked 1 every 10 times he goes back to pass. Peterman is sacked 1 out of every 50 times he goes back to pass. Look, it wasn't Peterman's fault that the ball went off the receiver's hands. I've been touting him all year long. I think he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. I know he's better than Tyrod Taylor. Bills thought so too at one point. Got off to a bad start. I get you. You know what? Taylor isn't winning this ball game. This is going to be a rout. There isn't one thing that the Bills match up well with against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not one. There's a reason why Jacksonville's favored by 8.5. I think that's too low. Jacksonville 33, Buffalo 6. The Bills still haven't won a postseason game since Don Shula coached his last game. Final game of the day, also with the local flavor, Carolina at New Orleans. Both teams are 11-5. All year long, I've been telling you about the Saints, actually all season long, dating back to last year. We're in a year that's now 5 days old. Saints trying to make one last run with Drew Brees. Try to get some more veterans on the team. Peterman, he didn't work out. So what? There was Kamara. John Kuhn's still blocking. He's still doing a great job. Saints improved by 4 games this year. Remember, they were 7-9 last year. Defense mightily improved. I think it continues. Cam Newton, he pouts. Drew Brees, he wins. Go with the Saints, 27-21. So, let's take that again. I'm going to give you straight up, but to tell you the truth, I'm also saying all these teams are going to cover. Tennessee, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and I don't know if the Saints will cover, and I don't bet that one, but don't bet any of them, really. I mean, I had somebody once, who do you think, Marky? Who do you think? I give him a strong, what I said, I really think that Colorado State will beat Colorado this year. He went out, bet it, lost $2,000. Don't bet these games, folks, okay? But I'm just, for entertainment purposes only, I wouldn't take the, I feel very strongly on my picks of Tennessee, Atlanta to cover, Jacksonville, I wouldn't give you anything. Saints and Falcons, I think the Saints will win. Saints and Panthers, I think the Saints will win. But don't, the 6-point spread, I just gave you a push there. I don't have a strong feeling that way. So there you go. Hey, ETSU is on a roll, and I think this team could be going places. I'll tell you why and more when Tri-City Sports Now continues after this.
The Tanasi Arts and Heritage Center in Unicoi, Tennessee